remote system, which we're here in Washington, D.C. And let me see if we can... Okay. So I've got today with me my guest, Larry Nichols. And Larry, I apologize about the noise, but I've just left this Seth Rich press conference. I don't know if you've had a chance to hear that, Larry. Did you?
No, sir, I haven't. But a friend I was talking to kind of brought me up to date on it to some degree. Very fascinating stuff. Fascinating.
Well, I don't know if you and I have discussed Seth Rich all that much, but I have really come to believe that anything having to do with Seth Rich is kind of, a psychological operation intended to distract us from other possibly more important things. Have you followed the Seth Rich situation?
Yes.
What can you tell us about it?
There's several things. Well, Jason, number one, it fits. I hate to say it because I don't want to be guilty of, claiming the Clintons killed people, etc., etc. I'm not doing that. But I am telling you, since the day it happened, it's got many, if not all, of the characteristics of an Arkansas.
Right.
Number one, he was killed. They claimed it to be a robbery, yet nothing was taken. Then, it is rumored that he was working to turn stuff over to WikiLeaks. So I'm telling you, that would be grounds for someone to get whacked.
Right.
It truly would.
Well,
and, Jason, think about it. Somebody like that gets murdered. You would expect at his job, the connections he had with his job, you would expect there would have been a far greater effort to investigate it than what has happened, don't we?
Yeah.
And that usually tells me that there's something the guy knew, something the guy was working on, that if it got out what he was working on could be extremely damaging.
Right. Well, I mean, the problem that I've had with it, Larry, is that there's been no investigation, there's been no...
Exactly.
No ballistics report, no autopsy, and even the witness that we saw come forward today didn't present anything remotely resembling any of that stuff. I mean, not to take away from the guy, if he's telling us the truth, it's very brave of him to come forward, but this was really just somebody on the telephone saying a bunch of things. He didn't name anyone, he didn't provide any evidence that could be verified, he didn't say, hey, he alleges that a DEA agent and an alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agent working at the behest of Rod Rosenstein did this. I don't know. That doesn't add up to me.
No.
Do we have any evidence that Rosenstein has been working with these kind of guys?
I haven't seen any. It doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's just odd, much like you're saying right there. It was the first thing that grabbed me. Why Rosenstein? Why Rosenstein? Now, of course, you do know, Jason, that there is a heavy price for these different subcommittees to get evidence and documents from Rosenstein that they're withholding.
Okay.
So it could be that Rich, some of the stuff he was hypothetically that he was supposedly turning over to WikiLeaks could have been material that would have damaged the FBI. But I'm going to tell you my problem with that. If Rosenstein were the person behind it, why did he use NSA and ATF guys?
The whole thing doesn't make any sense to me at all, Larry. Every time something comes up about Seth Rich, it seems to be flawed, seriously flawed, and there seem to be the same people floating around it. Now, Larry, everybody knows that you, for a long, long time, were a Washington, D.C. insider. You were working for the Clintons. You've been involved in so many kind of like black bag operations and dirty tricks for them. Let's talk for a minute about these political opposition research firms. And the one that comes to mind is Greenberg, Quinlan, and Rosner. Do you have any direct experience with them?
I don't have. I've got experience with them, yes. They are probably one of the dirtiest opposition research organizations in the trade. As a matter of fact, they specialize. If you can believe this, they basically advertise, Jason, that they have the sources and contacts to destroy anyone.
Right. So that's what these companies do. Now, a lot of people don't realize, Larry, Seth Rich at one point worked for Greenberg, Quinlan, Rosner. Dr. Corsi shared that with me in our first interview. So I know I'm asking you to speculate.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. So the question then becomes, with so many problems surrounding this Seth Rich murder, no investigation by the D.C. police, bizarre witnesses coming forward at bizarre times and seemingly very, it's very showboaty in my view to bring out a witness on July the 10th. I mean, that doesn't seem like someone, oh, there's an ATF officer right there. Excuse me, officer. Officer. Let's see if I can go speak to this guy for a second. Let me take this system mobile, Larry. We're going to talk to the ATF guys. I just dropped my water bottle. I got a lot of stuff I'm carrying. I hope this doesn't knock out the live broadcast, but I want to go talk to these ATF guys. Excuse me, officers, can I talk to you guys for a moment? Is that okay?
You can't do that, sir.
Can't do what? What?
You on government property can't record.
Why not?
You're on government property.
This is government property? This is a Five Guys hamburger restaurant.
It's all around, sir. All around,
I'm not allowed to record?
You can talk to Delta too.
Why am I not allowed to record out here on the street? I just want to ask you guys, you're with the ATF, right?
Yeah, we can answer the questions.
Did you know that someone's just accused an ATF officer of murdering somebody?
Huh?
Did not know.
Oh, I don't know.
All right, they don't want to talk about it, Larry. All right, so fine. These guys don't want to talk about it. But anyway, Larry, back to our conversation. Can you still hear me?
Yes, you're cutting out pretty bad, but that's just where you are.
Yeah, I'll stay where I was. Sorry, I was trying to talk to the ATF guys there. Anyway, the thing I was getting at is, so we've got this Greenberg, Quinlan, Rosner. They're a political opposition research firm, which is essentially a company that, as you said, engages in all sorts of dirty tricks, making up lies, putting stories into the news, crafting things that look like evidence so that they can frame people, destroy their reputations. We've seen a lot of this going on. The question is, if Seth Rich worked for a firm like that, do you think it would be beyond conception that they could come up with a plan surrounding the release of this information and just to make it seem... I apologize for all the noise, Larry, but in my view, this entire Seth Rich story is designed to muddy the waters surrounding the release of this DNC information to make the general public feel that it's a conspiracy theory, that it's, somehow associated with Pizzagate, that it's not actual news, that it's a fake kind of a thing. Is that the type of stuff these political opposition research firms engage in?
You bet. You bet. Big time. Big time. Look, opposition research, Jason, in the trade, and I'm talking about in the trade of politics, opposition research is nothing but kind of like a private investigation company that specializes in, you pay them to destroy your opposition or your opponent. That's what they do. They don't do anything else. They don't do research as to the voting record. They don't do research as to their political history. They've got one job, Jason, one, and that is to trash the other, the person paying them's opponent.
Right.
And then that organization boasts on the fact that they've got such contacts with various media sources that they can get whatever they come up with, they can get it out to the mass media.
I see. So these are the kinds of people that might take, some element of evidence, like they're not actually doing research. They're sort of, it's almost like slander manufacturing, Opposition research
Right.
sounds like somebody might look into your background and say, oh, he worked for the Clintons or he did this or that. But opposition research
Right.
seems more based on actually manufacturing things like the Steele dossier or some fake information and just
Right.
pushing it out into the news.
And they give anonymity to their client. So they actually tell their client, if we need to, we've got this story, but we cannot verify its authenticity. But what we will do is we will make sure you're not sued or blamed. We will cut you from any of the responsibility. That's what they do.
And one of the ways they might do that is to possibly use something like BuzzFeed, put it out through that,
Yes.
and then the New York Times can say, hey, BuzzFeed reported this, and then the New York Times isn't lying. They're telling you the truth. BuzzFeed reported it. BuzzFeed
Right.
might get sued out of business, but it's almost like they can create these entities just to push out this fake information. And those entities, obviously suing the New York Times, they've got hundreds of millions of dollars. BuzzFeed, who knows, might go bankrupt after just a few million. So it's a layer of protection to disseminate lies, right?
Right, and they use, one of the techniques used is a variation, Jason, of what you would call circle journalism. Now, what they do, and this is a matter of the industry, how it works, they will go, Jason, and for example, give you a story. You put it on your website. Then they'll go to another person, give them the same story, and tell them, look, if you don't believe me, you can go to Jason's website, see for yourself. Then they go to another place and say, same story, but if you don't believe me, but two people have already got the proof.
Right.
And what it is they're the ones that manufactured the whole thing in the first place.
And we saw exactly that
I mean,
happen with Yahoo News, where the dossier was leaked to Yahoo News, and then somehow
Right.
Yahoo News
Right.
verified the dossier. That's circular journalism.
Circular journalism. It's absolutely, it's a vicious weapon. It truly is.
Yeah. But it's pretty obvious when you lay it out like this to see it being done. I mean, this has happened to me. Last year, right around this time, somebody set up what they characterized as a dirty bomb hoax. They reported it on some YouTube channels. They, obviously once calls were made to the Coast Guard, etc., it got picked up by major news outlets. But the people, I think, who manufactured that hoax knew that if you created a substantial public incident at a port, there would be major reporting on that. And I believe it was done, at least in part, to try to destroy my reputation. And it's come back around now. The other element that we see, Larry, that comes into play with both Seth Rich, my own situation, and something that I was looking at earlier today with Michael Flynn's progress hearing, is the use of lawfare. Once these things get underway, they like to bring lawsuits, and then they can even reference these ridiculous reports in those lawsuits, right?
Right, absolutely. They can give you enough information, Jason, so that you can trigger a lawsuit and pass Rule 11. That's all they've got to do is pass Rule 11. Rule 11 is a frivolous lawsuit. And they know that just through the accusation being run through the court, that 60 to 80% of the people that see it will believe it's true. You are, yeah, that's right, you are, when you go to that firm or any opposition research firm, when you go to them, Jason, you are at the epicenter of sleaze in politics. That's where you are.
And Larry, would I be correct in assuming that part of the goal in putting these accusations into a lawsuit, particularly a federal lawsuit, is that it creates a more tangible record? Someone could then go and say, hey, it's alleged in a federal lawsuit, and certainly that sounds very convincing in a newspaper article or something.
Well, you would be amazed at our society, even today, our society, when they see something through a federal lawsuit, that's grounds for credibility. You know, everybody thinks, well, if there wasn't something there, they sure couldn't have done that. You know, if there wasn't nothing there, there's no way they would go to court.
But the actual fact is anyone could bring a federal civil lawsuit for any reason at all.
That's right. That's right. And then by going to a federal lawsuit, law firms actually use that firm, Washington D.C. law firms use that firm to go out and help in the discovery phase of a lawsuit. It's called going fishing. You know, you file a lawsuit, you make this claim. That claim with that lawsuit provides you with the legal ability to have discovery.
Right. Get into someone's financial records and all that sort of thing, and they're hopeful, I guess, in there they'll find something. Yeah.
I mean, it's one of the most deadly weapons today. You know, we used to call it a Clinton roast. A Clinton roast, like the roast the stars used to do. Red Skelmo's guys, when they pick somebody and have a party and then they tell ugly jokes or silly things that happen.
Right.
We called it Clinton roast. You have no idea. Most people, you do, but most people have no idea of the damage that can be done to an individual. We used to always say, look, what we're doing when we destroy somebody is worse than killing them. You know, you shoot somebody, bang, bang, they're dead. But if you put them through a roast like this, they're still breathing, but they're dead.
Right.
They're dead. They're walking around. Usually it destroys their finances, their families.
Can't get a job, they're embarrassed in public, all that stuff.
Yep.
Pretty bad. So Larry, how many...
We've done it.
I'm sure. It's happening right now. It's happening right now, and I could name the people that are doing it to me. Larry, how many of these political opposition research firms exist, would you say?
There's probably just in Washington, D.C., there's probably well over 100.
Over 100?
There's probably well over 100, but there are probably 10 that are big institutional type groups that take most of the major cases.
Wow, wow. And Rahm
And
Emanuel was somehow involved with Greenberg, Quinlan Rosner, so there's direct ties there to certainly at least the Obama administration. And you know, this is my own speculation, but I feel like when it comes to these sorts of secretive firms, we've heard about Black Cube, we've heard about Fusion GPS, Greenberg, Quinlan Rosner, Shadowbox, we've heard about so many of these. I feel like they're kind of like cockroaches in that if you see 4 of them, there might well be 4,000 inside the walls.
That's right.
Part of what they do is try to remain clandestine, right?
Yes, absolutely. Now they also have another feature. They can go around and put out disinformation. So by that, what do I mean? They will, and it's not uncommon at all, they will go out and portray themselves as, let's say, a Trump person, all right? They get on the internet with sort of a individual, a blogger, whatever you call that stuff, and maybe even go so far as to look like an organization that's behind Trump. But in fact and indeed, if you look at what they put in their information, they're setting Trump up. It's setting up his followers. Let me give a better way of saying that. There's a story that's out that, for example, there's 39,000 sealed indictments for Obama's people, the Clinton people, and that they're all going to be thrown into Gitmo, and it's going to be, now I'm paraphrasing this, it's probably not the real story the way it is, but 39,000 sealed indictments. They're going to be sent to Gitmo, and they're going to be prosecuted through military tribunals. All right?
Yeah. I think I've heard that from QAnon or something.
Well, that's not real. It's not true. At least I don't think it is.
You don't think there are 39,000 sealed indictments?
No. Good Lord, no.
I agree with you. I don't think there are.
Who are you going to call to get? You can't just pick up the phone and dial 1-800-INDICTMENTS or us and order up indictments on everybody you can name.
Right. There's court proceedings to indict somebody. Be known, right?
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So anyway, but they'll put stuff out like that and get all of us buying into it, right? We all buy into it, and we think, well, we're getting somewhere. We're going to bring it down. And you know what happens? It's not true.
Right.
And we all end up flat of our face.
Right.
And a goodly percentage of our people say, you know, come on, we've tried and tried, and that never works. And then it makes people back off.
Right.
It makes people stop. They do that. They do that on purpose.
Yeah.
And I'm not picking on any group, because any group, including me and you, we could, because these companies are that good and that slick, any of us could get caught up and buying into the stuff they feed us.
Get infiltrated by that type of thing, you mean, right?
That's right. And then think about it. We're out here trying to get more people to wake up. You know, more regular people that heretofore have never paid attention to politics. We're trying to get them to wake up and help us save our country. And then we go out and tell them a story like that, and their eyes roll back in their heads. And they go, God, you and your people are nuts.
Right.
And they'll have nothing to do with us.
That's the idea,
that's
is destroying the credibility. That's what they seem to want to do.
That's what they do, and they do it well.
I was a little worried for a second there, Larry. I was a little worried because a big SUV just pulled up and its windows are all blacked out, but the doors opened and a puff of marijuana came out, so I don't think this is a government vehicle. But I think you're really onto it here. You're really onto it, Larry, because we're seeing this happen, you know, even if it's not an organized, gigantic, well-funded firm like Greenberg, Quinlan Rosner, or Fusion GPS, certainly DC insiders like yourself and other people who have been in the intelligence industries and who have been around working for, I don't know, Department of Homeland Security or the CIA, these guys all know about these techniques, and certainly they could apply them just as I'm not CNN, but I know how to create a broadcast. I can mimic certain things that they do as far as production and distribution and all that. So it's not inconceivable that a sort of an upstart, group could come together and do these same sort of things.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Greenberg, their firm, actually is under contract, if you can believe it, with MSNBC.
Unbelievable.
Now,
unbelievable.
Why would MSNBC need to have a contract with a firm like that? They're not legitimate research.
Right, right. And what can you say about the Black Cube, Larry? Is that a company that you know about? That came into the news. They were hired, I believe, by Harvey Weinstein to, I guess, follow and, I don't know, harass people who Harvey Weinstein had allegedly assaulted or whatever. They first came to my attention when, yeah.
That group is a different kind of industry business. They're like Jack Anderson out in LA, used to be. I don't know if he still is, but what they do is just what you said. They go out and muscle people, threaten, all manner of things. They used Anderson and his group, if you'll recall, back during the Clinton days. Sally Perdue, a former Miss America. I had her. She was fixing to come out. She was fixing to talk. And she goes out to her car, and they'd broken the glass in the back and put shotgun shells in the back seat, basically to let her know that they could kill her anytime they wanted to. Now, when you start going to them, like Shue, Anderson, and that bunch, now you're talking about real criminal activity.
I don't know if I'm familiar directly with Jack Anderson. Who was he?
Jack Anderson, for years and years and years, was known as the attorney for the mob.
Ah.
And of course, he represented Hillary. And his firm, they tough now. I had a hooker in Oklahoma City that Bill Clinton owed $50,000 to.
Did you say a hooker?
Could
you repeat that?
And we would said a hooker. Yeah, H-O-O-K-E-R. Hooker.
50,000. 50,000?
Yes. Wow. She would come over in her red Corvette from Oklahoma City, and she would meet Bill, because I'd have to set up the little rendezvous at the downtown Holiday Inn at that time in the Luck on Broadway. And she would come, they'd do their business, she'd come back. Well, I had her coming out in an article. She was actually going to tell her story. And when it came time for the publication to get her story, they go over there and they couldn't find her. Nobody could find her. Well, at one point when they went, they found a card that was laying by the front door from somebody that was connected to the Jack Anderson law firm. And what he had actually done, she was in bankruptcy, but she was fixing to tell her story to People magazine. I tell you, she had People magazine. She was fixing to come forward. She was bankrupt. She had declared bankruptcy. Well, when she didn't show up, I went back over, took the People magazine with me, those folks, and guess what? Her bankruptcy had been dropped. All her debts had been paid. And she had disappeared, and if you wanted to get in touch with her, they had to go through Jack Anderson's law firm in L.A.
Now, there's
And
another
they
law
told
firm.
her,
There's a law firm that came up today, the guys that are defending Michael Flynn. The name escapes me right now, but we've heard from Scott Bennett. It's not Perkins Coie, it's, I can't remember right now. Have you been following the Mike Flynn case, Larry?
No.
I mean,
No,
he seems to
because
have
he's
been
just-
the target of this type of opposition research as well, no?
Yeah.
It's going on all the
I feel
time.
sorry for her. Yeah, I feel so sorry for him. Because here you had a man that had a distinguished career, military. And he set up, who was he set up by? The FBI. He was literally set up, and as a matter of fact, in one of the Oversight Committee investigation, one of the guys that got him lying to the FBI said that he didn't lie. As a matter of fact, I think it was Trump that said he did not lie. But he's being destroyed.
For sure.
He'll never get his name back. Now, I would hope, I do hope, that Trump pardons him. But even with the full pardon, he'll never get his name back.
Or his house.
Never.
He's spent a ton of money
Or
defending
his
this.
house.
So again, I mean, we see
That's
these
right.
tactics. They do this type of political opposition research. They do these types of smears in the news. They use crappy news outlets like BuzzFeed and Yahoo News, basically like burner news outlets. Some, Yahoo maybe is a giant company, but that doesn't have the kind of gravitas that the Washington Post or the New York Times does. Those are
Right.
sort of established, deep state operatives that something comes out in the New York Times, it gets published around the country and around the world as the truth. So if you can,
That's
pawn
right,
it off.
because
Yep.
still to this day, Jason, there is an attitude by certainly the older people in America that if it's in the paper, if it's in print, it must be true. And the reason is because if it wasn't true, they wouldn't dare print it because they could be sued.
Right.
And people don't understand the rules there. That's not really true. It's not really true. Just because a publication puts something out, if they were given that information by somebody, hey, they're free and clear.
Yeah. And there's some nuance these days as well, Larry, because, back in the day, a newspaper obviously was in danger of being sued because it had a reach of hundreds of thousands or millions, and that it also had a lot of money. But today, someone like myself or anyone who just gets a cell phone and goes on YouTube, well, if you're tenacious and you dig into the right stories and you spend every day creating news broadcasts as I am, you can build a following and have a reach to thousands or hundreds of thousands or even millions. And the notion of getting sued or suing somebody is vastly different when you're an individual versus a large corporation.
That's
So
right.
just the threat of a lawsuit is often, or actually filing the lawsuit is often going to achieve the goals that these nefarious individuals want to achieve by intimidating and shutting down their opposition. Now let's shift gears a little if we can, Larry. I know there's a lot of people.
You shift gears,
oh yeah, sure.
Before you shift gears, I want to bring one thing up. I want everybody to think about the things I have accused Clinton and others of. Now, I don't stutter. I use my name. I don't use a truck driver handle. I'm Larry Nichols. I say it's my name, the whole 9 yards. But, Jason, think about it. The things that I have said against the Clintons, just as an example, and many others, they're not just civil liabilities. They're criminal liabilities. There's criminal slander, criminal libel.
If it were untrue.
They never come after me.
Right.
They haven't come after me.
Because it's
Why?
true.
Because it's the truth, and they don't dare give me discovery in a court of law.
Right. And a lot of people throw around that word slander, libel, defamation. They think, you know, if someone says something they don't like, that's defamation. But as you've just pointed out, it's only defamation if it's untrue.
That's right.
And in fact, it's only
true.
defamation if the person saying it knows it's untrue.
It's only slander if you know it's not true and you do it on purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Criminal.
So that's happening all the time. So let's shift gears, Larry. I know there's a lot of other stuff going on. People want to know when Jeff Sessions is going to act. Since our last conversation, Imran Awan has gotten himself a sweet plea deal. What do you think that Imran Awan plea arrangement means for the future? A lot of people have been speculating that they felt that Imran was given this sweetheart deal possibly because he was going to be allowed, or rather that he was going to cooperate and become a witness and rat people out. Do you think that's going to happen? Any indication of that?
No, that'll never happen. And part of the reason he got a sweet deal, which I was informed about from my friend, you know who I'm talking about, was because in his case, folks, he was going to use as his defense some of the materials that he had collected. And some of those materials were classified, secret, or top secret. And of course, they couldn't be allowed to be used in a public setting like court, right? So when that happened, his attorneys said, since he can't use this stuff as his evidence, then you've got to no pros. Not prosecuting, because he can't defend himself. It was a nasty trick, but it worked.
Have you ever dealt directly with Chris Gowan? He worked for the Clinton Foundation, but I guess that was formed after you parted ways with the Clintons?
That was after, yeah, that was after me. That was after me. But now, Imran had one other thing. You see, his mother and his brother fled the country right before they were able to pick them up. So he had them over the barrel on that front as well.
I think it was his wife.
Because obviously, wife, whatever, he had all that information. He had already got out of the country. There's no telling how much damage what they did with him. There's no telling, Jason, what damage that man and his family have done to our intelligence community. There's no telling. You can't imagine what he's done. And to be able to walk, are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people who feel that it's possible that Imran may be working for some rogue element of our intelligence community, and that brings me to my next question for you, which is Peter Strzok. We've been in touch now with Robin Gritz, with Mike Dick, Mike McMahon, you know, retired FBI agents, each of them very knowledgeable in the operation of the FBI, much more so than the average person or even some of the people that come on, major news shows. And they're telling me that nobody that they know is able to, remember seeing Peter Strzok in the FBI Academy. There are none of these photos of them at dinners and graduation and things like that. And, Robin, of course, was a liaison between the CIA, or I should say, between the FBI and the CIA. And she worked a lot with Michael Flynn in that capacity. That role came about after 9/11, after, they made a big deal of saying that the CIA had some pieces of the puzzle, the FBI had some pieces of the puzzle, but because they weren't working together, 9/11 was able to happen. So this was used to sort of throw away the checks and balances that kept a federal police force from spying on U.S. citizens with the same power and tools that our clandestine agencies are in an unconstitutional capacity using against foreign enemies. But it created these, fusion situations where we've got joint terrorism task forces that combine FBI resources with local law enforcement and possibly CIA. Is Peter Strzok some sort of clandestine insert into the FBI, doing things there that even FBI agents aren't aware of? How can we explain his presence in the FBI?
Well, number one, Jason, I cannot say to the degree that I can prove it in a court of law. So let me get that out right now. What I'm about to say is my opinion only. I cannot substantiate it in a court of law. But I will tell you this, Strzok was one of the leading edges of Rosenstein, Comey, Mueller, Obama, their whole plan to restructure the government in America. He was a point man. He was a point man out to go out. Well, let's say it this way, Jason. He was kind of like an official. He was an official research, opposition research person.
Within the FBI.
The work he was within the FBI. Now, what should tell you the truth about that, that should give you some confidence that he was a point man to some degree and was deep in it, is because when he was demoted, they demoted him and put him where? In human resources. What goes on in human resources at the FBI? That's the keeper of all the records. So if you wanted to scrub records for fear that some of these subcommittees that are requesting them might get their hands on them, you would want somebody like Strzok in human resources, because likely as not, Jason, he knew what was there. He knows the players within the agency. He knows exactly whose emails and texts to go to and clean.
Huh. It's very interesting, Larry. I mean, it seems clear that he's not a normal FBI agent. He's doing something over there.
He is not.
And of course, Rahm Emanuel, very close to Barack Obama. Barack Obama himself may well be a deep state insert into the office of the president.
Yes. Look, guys, I know from my association with the Progressive Council for years, everybody in this audience has heard of the Bilderbergers or the Trilaterals or the One World Order groups. And what's his name? The rich guy that funds all of Antigua.
Soros.
Soros. All of those people are part of an organization out of Europe called the Progressive Council. And their goal has been for years, I have no idea how long it was going on before I was introduced to them and put in it. But I do know this. We were at the point where they were ready to transform our form of government. And all that had to happen was Hillary to be president. And then when Trump got it, it foiled their plans. But when you identify the deep state, you need to know the deep state is a functionary of a group called the Progressive Council. And when you see, Jason, when you see a candidate of a high-level race like president, like Hillary, claiming to be a progressive rather than, quote unquote, a liberal, see, a liberal wants to be able to do the stuff that liberals want to do. Progressives want to literally do away, Jason, with our constitutional form of government. Huge difference.
Yeah. It's scary to think how everything is just hanging by a thread. And they're not giving up, are they, Larry? I mean, they lost. Trump obviously won the election, but they are not giving up. In fact, I think they are redoubling their efforts.
They are. And, you know, folks, I'm telling you, November of this year is huge. Probably one of the biggest elections our country's ever had is coming in November. If the Democrats are able to take control of the House within weeks of them taking office, Trump will be impeached. Jason, they've already got 60 congressmen right now, Democrats, that have pledged to impeach Trump, even though, as yet, there's been no crime attached to him.
Right. What are they going to impeach him for?
Now, here's where it gets scary.
Yeah.
Well, here's where it gets scary. If they don't take control of the House in November, I fear, and I'm not trying to scaremonger anybody, if they don't get control of the House in November, I fear for President Trump's life. He's got to go.
According to them,
President Trump has got to go, according to them.
Right. No, I hear you, Larry, and that's been a concern that I've had for some time. And I mean, you know, bringing it back to the situation I was talking about earlier, that's the way these guys work. They just keep ramping up. They're so incompetent that they can't get it right the first time, so they just have to keep trying and trying different stupid approaches. And, you know, they seem to have unlimited resources. It's really quite crazy. So it's important. I'm going to take a moment to remind people to support Crowdsource the Truth, trying real hard to point out these dastardly individuals. You can do it at patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth, become a monthly sponsor, or do a one-time sponsorship at paypal.me/crowdsourcethetruth. Larry, what's the best way for people to see you and hear your updates when they're not watching Crowdsource the Truth? Of course, they can go to the official Larry Nichols YouTube channel. Where would you like people to listen to your broadcasts or see you?
Well, first off, they can go to a site that is nicholslive.com, and that'll give you access to everything. nicholslive.com. But let me add to what you were saying, Jason. Folks, I need you to support this program. Jason and I have made a commitment that hopefully about every Tuesday I'm going to be here. I cannot tell you how. Jason knows, though, but I cannot tell you how. But I'm about as close to the horse's mouth in some areas as you're going to get. Is that a fair statement, Jason?
I would say so. It's the best that I know.
All right, now, folks, we need the truth out. People are actively trying to steal our country. They're trying to rob it from us. They're trying to take it from us, and God help us, they are well ahead of where most people believe they are. This program is one place where you can come, and as best we can do, you will hear the truth, and you'll be able to act on it. So please support this network or this program financially. I need this show to communicate to all of you. If we don't have this program, I have no way to tell y'all the things that I'm able to find out.
I appreciate
Please help
that.
Jason.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate that. I really do.
You bet.
Always love having
I
you
didn't
on.
get patronizing. I was telling the truth.
I appreciate that. So, Larry, we're coming up on an hour here, and this portable system, the batteries are a little run down from my earlier coverage of the Seth Rich press conference. Was there anything else you wanted to get into today?
I think we've touched on a bunch of things. I think we're okay, but that Seth Rich press conference, I can't wait to hear it. Do you believe, having sat through that press conference, do you believe what was said? I'm asking. I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No. I don't mind. I'll tell you, I do not believe anything that I hear about Seth Rich. I find it very strange that there was no police investigation into a murder in the middle of Washington, D.C., something that got onto the national news. A guy that was working for the Democratic National Committee is murdered in close proximity to a major election, and the police don't even investigate. That's absurd. There's no autopsy done. That's absurd.
And then the other thing that is bizarre is there is a videotape of Debbie Wasserman Schultz telling the Capitol Police a lie.
Right.
And remember that they destroyed General Flynn, supposedly for a lie. Here she tells a lie
Right.
to the Capitol Police on tape, and not one step's been made towards her, prosecuting her.
It's very difficult
And
for me
she
to
was
know.
the gatekeeper.
Yeah, it's very difficult for me to know what's going on with the U.S. Capitol Police, with the U.S. Attorney's Office. We've heard that Stephen Wasserman, Debbie Wasserman Schultz's brother, is an assistant U.S. attorney in that office. Does he have any influence over Michael Mirando's prosecution of Imran Awan? Michael Mirando's wife's maiden name is Wasserman, Joanna Wasserman. Is she related to Debbie and Stephen Wasserman? I don't know. But there's so many strange things about this. The U.S. Capitol Police turned over apparently important evidence to the defense attorney, not the prosecution. We don't know how that happened. Nobody wants to investigate anything, Larry. That's really the reason I'm out here, because, you know, I was speaking with Larry Klayman yesterday, and Larry told us about how grand juries are the power of the people. They are not overseen by the Department of Justice. It's the power for the people to investigate evidence of crime. And Larry has started a movement to take that power back and put that investigation into the hands of the people. I'm doing it differently than Larry. I'm going around with a cell phone camera investigating, but I think this is the moment where we all need to really rally together and try and take our country back. I'm not into violence. I don't want to do violence. We've got cops over there and over there. They'd kill me in a hot minute, so I'm not getting involved with violence. But I want to get the word out, and I want to help Larry Klayman with his citizens' grand juries. I want to help you. I want to help you, Larry Nichols, get your story out, get the word out. I would eventually like to visit you in Arkansas and conduct an interview or a series of interviews where we could really maybe go to some of the places and really get a feeling for exactly what's going on, because it's just beyond reason how these people are able to get away with such crimes, and it's got to stop.
Well, and Debbie Wasserman Schultz, this is another thing that's driving me crazy about her. They claim that there's 40 or that Aaron was working for 40 to 60. I can't remember, was it 40 or 60?
It's a large number, yeah.
Well, the truth is, folks, is over 250. Over 250. He had access to the computer files of over 250 members of our Congress. How in the world did Debbie Wasserman Schultz get that guy hooked up with that job that is so dangerous from a security perspective? How does she do it? Nobody's ever answered that.
And, you know, Larry,
nobody's ever asked her.
I know you're not an IT expert, but it doesn't seem like very much of a stretch to presume that if you were working for 40 members of Congress and that was your full-time job, I think that would occupy most of your time during the day. How did he have time to visit Laurel Everly at 4809 Sprayer Street 2 to 3 times a week?
Yes.
And all the other businesses he was involved in, CIA, you know, Cars International A, and all this other stuff. It's just so ridiculous on the face of it. It's astounding. And then we see someone like Michael Flynn, who's lost his money, lost his home, lost his reputation because they say he lied to investigators. And there's one FBI agent who said that he didn't lie. So there's a lot for us to still learn, Larry. I look forward to our conversation next week, and I want to thank you for joining me. It's been a long day so far, and I want to thank everybody for watching. Everyone can go to, is it Nichols Live, was it, Larry?
Yes, nicholslive.com. NICHOLS live.com.
And I'll have more graphics prepared for those websites and things for our next conversation. This mobile system is useful. I'm actually pretty near the ATF office right now, and I had an inkling of doing taking our show in there, but I literally started it in the cab, and these ATF officers obviously aren't interested in speaking to me, so I'm glad we were able to have this sidewalk conversation. Always really interesting to speak with you, Larry, and thank you for your insights. Have a great week, and I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.